All right, Ryan. So talk to me just a little bit about how you're doing today. We've been talking about doing the podcast for a long time, for months and months, and all of a sudden you're here. What led you to finally say, all right, I'm going to do it, and landed you in that seat in front of that microphone? What got you here?
Yeah, I think one thing we tried to accomplish as city council, me personally as mayor, is being transparent and available to all of the residents. And so I reached out to Ron and I said, hey, I think it's time to do the podcast. We have a city council meeting today. I shaved my face. I look half decent. So now's as good of opportunity as any. And we have a lot going on in the city that I think we love sharing our story, telling everybody what we have going on now and what we have planned in the future. And you have a great platform to be able to disseminate that information.
I do appreciate you being here. And to me, one of the things, like, let's be very transparent. I didn't support you when you ran for office. However, one thing that you earned very quickly from me, and something that you still have today, is my respect. So politically, we probably come closer together over time. I don't know if I've come more your way or you've come more mine, or maybe just some of that nonsense that always goes on has kind of died down a little bit. But either way, absolutely 100% have my respect, and I think that's critical because we want for our elected officials to succeed, right? I mean, in all cases. So I think a lot of what's going on in the world right now is like, well, I'm on this side, you're on this side, so we must hate each other. That's not the case though, right?
When we talk about your passion for supporting small businesses here locally, your passion for the city, you're invested, you're a resident of Celina itself. And I think a lot of that leads to an interesting dynamic that comes out about 3 to 4 months before every election cycle. And then I think everybody, we hope to get on the same page that we're working for a greater economy, a stronger Celina, and everybody working together to see what we can accomplish.
Absolutely. So, and now we've got another election coming up. And one thing that you and I agree on 100% is we hate politics. Like, we hate this stuff. Like, it really tends to split people apart in a lot of ways. And of course, we see that nationally. And then, unfortunately, that comes down, and we're not immune to it, obviously, on the local level. So talk to me a little bit about this election coming up right now. Are we in for another, storm? And is it going to be like it has been in the past? Do you think it's going to be a little more calm? What do you think about this election?
I think everybody's calmed down for the most part. We have locally, we have school board races. We have city council elections. One of our city councilmen, Brandon Grumbles, is running unopposed. So there's not any contention to be had there. We have the incumbent, Philip Ferguson, running against Dorothy Allen. And in the end, do I think both would be great on city council? Yeah, I think they would both. They love the city. That's one thing I never question about those who decide to put their hat in for public service, is how much they love the city.
Right.
A lot of it then just comes down to policy, philosophy, and execution after that. I think it's very important for residents to reach out directly to those running for office. Get their point of views. Don't prejudge anybody based off of you don't show up, I don't see you enough publicly, I don't know who you are, or you have this conflict of interest, or why aren't you more involved in the schools versus being involved in the city? Where is that partnership? There's so many what ifs. I think it's great to hear directly from the candidates themselves, hear from their heart. What is their vision? How have they served the city in the past? Do they have the availability and willingness to serve the city in the future, to make those tough decisions that we're called upon to do each week?
Do you think that it's just like part of human nature almost to enjoy like a good argument or a good fight or, something like that? Like, does that play into this at all? Like, would it be almost even boring if there wasn't some contention or two sides and you want to see your person win, or you want to, does that play into this at all? Or why in the world does it seem like people feed off of the the fighting and stuff. What's going on with that, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally negativity breeds negativity. And being, I would say, from the outside coming to the inside, getting elected, having the honor to serve as Celina's mayor. Prior to being elected, I very much was that person on social media asking a lot of questions, pointing out inconsistencies, trying to figure out the why. Why did this happen? What's the explanation? And then coming in on the inside, I think a lot of that followed me in the sense of, okay, now it's my responsibility to explain the why. This is why we're doing things. This is how we're being responsible with your tax dollars, with your bond dollars. Why, in turn, why don't you see more public safety officials in this part of Preston Road versus in the middle of your neighborhood? A lot of that is incumbent on those as elected officials to tell our story as to what happens. I think I try to be very transparent and available as possible. You see me in social media. I get tagged as I started a sarcastic response to one of our local plumbers likes to tag me in a lot of things. And I started commenting Ryan's Power and Light, Ryan's Irrigation and Landscaping, Ryan's Asphalt Service. But it's in the core of it, I just love the journey of being able to serve all of the residents of the city itself and being able to explain this is what we have going on. This is who you can reach out to solve your issues. And man, I just love the day in and day out of it, of being able to represent the residents of Celina and however we can make their quality of life better.
Is it ever exhausting?
Oh, it's definitely exhausting. When you think about what my average daily looks like, I have a normal day job. A lot of people don't realize that as elected officials here, we don't get a stipend. We aren't paid at all. So it's a 100% volunteer position between city council. We elect a city manager that runs the day-to-day organization. So we have city staff that report up to a city manager that then reports to city council, and all of us as city council report to the residents themselves. But a typical day, when you look at exhaustion, a resident requests a meeting, I have a business meeting. I can really only do those for coffee super early in the morning or at lunch. I do have a day job. Somebody has to pay my mortgage and nobody's offered to do it yet, so I'm kind of responsible for that one. But having those meetings, and then evenings, I would say in the evenings we have maybe 3 to 4 public meetings, whether that's gatherings for nonprofits or it's roadway improvements, businesses coming in, ribbon cuttings, those kind of things. I kind of have a flexible schedule on the project management that I do. So it can definitely get stressful in between being sure that I'm there for my family, for my kids. I have 2 daughters and my wife, as well as being there for my church, being there for my friends. It's nonstop. It's not for the faint of heart in a growing city. It takes a lot of energy, and you just go every single day.
So one of the things about, like, and I've been here for, I guess, how many years now? 32 years. 32 years I've been in Celina, which makes, that's a while, right?
Old timer.
Yeah, old timer in a lot of ways. And I feel like an old timer. I look like one now too, but started off here originally as a police officer, actually reserve police officer, and then eventually got full-time and all that stuff, and fell in love with the city. And there was a lot to fall in love with here, and Frisco is going through a lot of what we're going through today. And I feel like Frisco is a prime example for us, and of course prosper in many ways as well. But it's so similar to what I saw going on in Frisco back then and in those days. And I'm not going to touch on this too much because I don't want to get too deep off into this stuff, because this is some of that negativity. But even back in Frisco, in the early days, there was an awful lot of groups, kind of like 2 big groups. You kind of had the old guard, and then you had kind of the newer people. And then, of course, today Frisco looks like, a rainbow of diversity and different, people serving in all aspects of the city. And I know that's, kind of where we're headed as well. But speak to me just a little bit about what you see with these groups, because we kind of have a similar thing here. You've got kind of an old guard group, and you've kind of got a different group, and very much polarization. There has been. Okay, I'm grateful that I see that that's diminished a lot. But talk to me about that. What is that like? How does that feel to you to have been kind of a part of that process and stuff? And do you agree with me that it's changing?
Yeah, so I think when my family and I first moved here in 2017, we saw signs up and down Dallas Parkway that said, "Don't Frisco my Celina." And somebody was selling T-shirts, all in jest. It's pretty funny, but there was some truth to it. We do have growth. There is a lot of push and pull in between those that want Celina to grow and those that want it to stay the same as it is today. A lot of that comes back to the state legislature. Texas is a very heavy property rights owner state, and some of that we control at a local level, and some of that is controlled at a state level. So we try and guide the growth as best as we possibly can. Those factions, I think when everybody individually talks to each other, I think we have a lot more in common than what everyone would expect. I think there may be perceptions out there of different groups not talking to each other, not being aligned. This is where I'm a huge policy and procedure person. Let's put it on paper so we can work towards the same goal. What is that North Star that we're working towards? Rather than arguing with each other over something that's interpreted, let's put it down, let's adopt it, and then in turn, there's very little room for interpretation to ensure we're both working towards that same goal. That's why we have different master plans. This is why we have different ordinances to help leave things up for little interpretation.
So talk to me about some of the dynamics in the past, in my opinion. And a lot of times, here's the thing with social media now, everyone can weigh in on stuff, right? So it's become a very, very different world. Where back in the day, you stood out on the town square and you drew a crowd and you would speak, and it happened more like that. If you wanted to make your opinions known, you did it right out here in the square. And now you just log into Facebook or whatever, and if you have some sort of a personal issue, and I've seen this happen where back in the past this happened, this former mayor did this, or this council person didn't do this that I thought they should have, or whatever. Sometimes, isn't it true that the genesis of your position against the city or against some elements of the city or whatever it is because of some personal thing that happened to you? Maybe you felt like you were wronged or something like that. Is that a dynamic? Do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think inherently everyone looks through and interprets what happened to them through their own vision, experiences, how they were brought up, how in turn they communicate. There's definitely times when we all see things differently. I think that's one thing that makes City Council so great is we have 7 different opinions, 7 different backgrounds, 7 different life experiences, and that difference of thought, whether you call it diversity, a lot of times we think of what is diversity of thought in the sense of we all have our own opinions on how we may reach the same conclusion, but we got there different ways. And some of that then may be a compromise. In politics, you can't agree on every single issue all the time. If not, that would be a groupthink, which nobody wants. So it's definitely good to have great decorum, talk out issues, reach the best suitable position that we can.
Do you feel like, I feel like in the past, one of the things that was fairly easily framed up in the past, and I see it happening a little bit now in this current election, is developer, anti-developer, that sort of thing. We have a real estate person coming in, we have an incumbent on council, and I've kind of already seen that posturing. One person is using and let's be very transparent about all this stuff. And for the record, I'm endorsing neither. Okay, I am intentionally not endorsing either candidate in that. I'm endorsing Brandon Grumbles. Okay, I hope he beats who he's running against. Very, very handily. But as you said, he doesn't have an opponent. So
no opponent.
That's the easiest endorsement ever right there, right? But in this other race, I see Philip Ferguson, the person who's the incumbent, and he keeps characterizing the other person as the commercial real estate agent, okay? Almost as if that's a negative. And I'm in real estate, okay? No, I'm not commercial, but that almost sounds like trying to take a position in that race. Like, I'm not the realtor. I'm not that developer or whatever, developer friendly maybe, I don't know. And then I see on the other side, I see Dorothy Allen, the one who is in commercial real estate, kind of using it like, the growth here is like this, and this is what drives our economy here and stuff like that. So I see her almost using that to her advantage, that she's in that. And that's expected. You have an opponent. You have to point out your differences. You have to say, this is why I'm better. This is why that person's not. But do you see that we're still in a position of anti-developer and developer? Is that still a thing here right now?
I think it is more about conflicts of interest and ensuring that those that serve on council aren't giving any type of benefits to sway them one way or another. We are elected by the residents to serve the residents. We're not elected by those to help them turn a bigger profit. So I don't think, even myself, I think I had an issue previously with how we were using residential tax incentives versus commercial tax incentives. As serving on city council, we've given out a lot of commercial tax incentives to help bring businesses here and help that speed to market come in. When you look at the two candidates you're talking about, I think it's really important to understand Philip's position as far as his relationship with the development community. I think everybody on city council needs to have a good relationship with those, whether they own the land or it's construction companies, to see what does it take to make a deal work. How do we get deals done without having to use taxpayer incentives? Is there something we can do as far as building codes? Is there a phased approach that we can help out with so that residents receive the best outcome without having to actually support it financially themselves? I think Dorothy does a good job of, when you talk to the local business owners, she is very analytical in her approach of saying, we may have 4 coffee shops. The 5th coffee shop may not be the best place. But you know what? We need another dry cleaners. We need another candle shop. I'm just going to throw some different names out there.
I have to interrupt you and ask you this. When's the last time you went to a candle shop?
Oh, gosh, probably like 20 years.
And that was your example.
Yeah, I know.
The candle shop.
I'm not trying to point out anybody individually.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got it. So she's very analytical like that. And so she may have some knowledge on, like you said, she's very, she reminds me a lot of you, very data driven, very analytical. Okay. So that, like I said, she's probably using that to her advantage. And obviously Philip is saying, hey, I'm not the commercial real estate person. And so I kind of look at that and I kind of go, is that such a negative? Do we have any other right now, to your knowledge? Do we have anyone else that's in real estate on the city council?
Not in real estate exclusively. One of our city council people does land, represents different groups as far as land entitling their public districts that they use, whether that's through the state or public financing, but not real estate specific, more land rather than individual end users opening up businesses themselves. I think where you could see a conflict coming in, I don't know that it's necessarily a conflict. For council itself, you look at the state legislature and they say a conflict is something if you have a direct financial benefit to come from it. But I think the biggest conflict is you look at city staff. City staff does 95% of the work before it ever actually comes to city council. So if you in turn are representing somebody else out besides the city, and you have to come in and you're asking for financial incentives or you're asking for less development standards, and you are representing somebody who's paying you, well, that's the financial interest, and then how in turn you could recuse yourself. And there is a recusal process that's laid out by the state. It's not something we have to do here locally, but it's how does that make staff feel in the room when in turn you are asking for an incentive, or you are asking for less design standards, and you are arguing against the interest of, I will call it the city staff itself, versus your personal interest, the client that's paying you to perform that work.
And hopefully, and I would like to think that we would never have anything like that. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's happened before, but I would really, really hope that wouldn't happen. I think it's fairly easy to take someone's profession and frame it up. I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit, right? Like, oh, you work for a developer, or you're a real estate agent, so therefore, and it's so easy to frame that up, specifically with that, because we're in this phase right now of all of this growth. And I guess you kind of, like you said, you nailed it with two different opinions on what we do. Do we stay how we are, which is probably, in my opinion, impossible, something that neither one of us can control. I mean, I guess if we, put some barricades up down there on the tollway down there, and, you can stand out there on Preston and block cars. But, I mean, we really, it has a whole lot more to do with just the growth of the area and stuff like, Prosper's going through this, Celina, Frisco, and Plano before that. Like, this has been a process probably since I was a young guy and you were probably just born. This is already underway. And now we kind of fall into it now. And long after we're gone, this will continue. There will be some sort of growth or something. So this isn't something new, but I hate seeing our community kind of at odds and literally falling into one of two camps. And so I don't support either one of those two groups that I'm talking about. I feel that it's critically important, my position, whatever that is in this community, that I'm not in either camp. Okay, which means I probably have people in both camps that don't like me, and that's good. I don't see that as a negative. What do you think about that as far as serving as mayor or on council or on any of these boards and commissions? Is neutrality, is that an important thing, or do you feel like it's really not that big of a deal to say, no, I align more over here, and to always kind of be in lockstep with that and to support that group or whatever? How do you feel about that?
I think everybody should have an open mind when they go into any individual decision that they make, whether that's around zoning or around incentives or working with the development community. I would say that I personally probably couldn't support someone who was going to come in and be anti-growth per se. It is, the state legislator has made it very difficult for cities to have local control. A lot of that has moved up to the state itself. You can develop in the county.
So I guess kind of what I'm thinking right now is like, I dislike, and I think the thing that pushes so many people away from politics in general is that the negativity. Okay, and here's an irony or an ironic thing, is that in national elections, I think what we've seen is that it polarizes and pulls people to things, but that's on a huge national level. On a local level, we don't have a lot of turnout for elections, do we? I mean,
no, it's local turnout somewhere between 6 and 10%.
So 6 to 10% of the people are making decisions that affect 100% of the people, most likely.
Yes, we always say that local elections will impact your lives more than any national elections.
And 6 to 10% of the people are out there making those decisions.
6 to 10% are definitely making that impact. Personally, I'm not a registered Republican. I'm not a registered Democrat. I think I lean somewhere more physically conservative, maybe socially moderate. And I think that goes back to just wanting to help people, help everyone to have pride in their city themselves.
Right.
How in turn do we provide parks? How do we provide infrastructure, making sure your quality of life with the new Methodist Hospital opening is the best it can be, and that you just have pride in living in Celina and telling everyone this is where you call home.